was the star of the show.
Don't go there. Season 1 was about the Walsh family. I agree with you.
Okay, but wait, let me finish.
Hey there, Beverly Hills 90210 fans. It's now time to dive deep into an episode-by-episode, character-by-character, song-by-song account of the making of your favorite zip code. With your host, Charles Rosen.
I sit in a chair. It's one of Sandy's antiques. The whole thing breaks.
Larry Mullen.
He shouldn't be even in this show. I hope they're going to kill him, and they did.
Pete Ferrero.
Up my TV crush is Claire Arnold. So, I mean, she has to come on the show at this point.
And representing the fans, Lily Amarim.
Ryan, I love you. I have dreamt about you.
What?
Along with many special guests. And your questions. So sit back and relax because it's like totally time for the Beverly Hills 90210 show.
All right. Well, here we are. Back on another week of the Beverly Hills 90210 show. Hey, Chuck, did you like that intro there? You and Jessica going back and forth from last week's big debate.
Two of us arguing.
And we never
so much.
And the truth is, I don't have many memories of us arguing, especially over narrative. I mean, never. See what you did to us, ever. See what you did.
You guys, it was going.
Split the country between blue and red. You did it.
It was a pretty hot week last week. Well, this is going to even be a hotter week because we've got the hottest character from Beverly Hills 90210, someone who definitely broke the mold. Christine Elise, aka Emily Valentine, is here with us. I know it's been a rough few days. You've lost your Wi-Fi. There's a lot of AT&T issues. Well, how's everything going with you in this whole process, though, of quarantine and whatnot?
Well, an ex-boyfriend, when this first began, said it best, I think. He said, Christine, you are overqualified for quarantine. I'm a bit of a troglodyte. I'm a troglodyte, so I'm a homebody, and I'm like a homing pigeon. If I go out, I don't ever want to meet. I just fucking zoom back to home again. It's really kind of sad. So I'm doing very well, actually. I'm doing better than can be expected.
Yes, I think some of us are able to adapt, and some of us clearly aren't. But I've loved this. I mean, the Beverly Hills 90210 show came from everyone being in quarantine, right? So
we're quarantine, baby.
Quarantine, baby. Hey, I got to ask you guys, Chuck and Jessica, it was clear 90210 needed someone like Emily Valentine at the time. Getting into this right off the bat, how did that conversation happen that we're going to bring in someone like this?
Do you have memories? Go, Jeff.
Yeah, one thing I remember is we got character payments for Emily because we, quote, created her, but I don't remember creating the character. The way it works for writers is if you're the one whose name is on the episode, the first time a character shows up, I think they send you $30 or something, but whatever. I remember writing that episode. I remember the reveal that it was a girl on the motorcycle pulling off the helmet. I remember the songs you hated to sing. I remember how perfectly cast you were. I remember more about Emily as a character and about this episode than I do about many things, but I don't remember saying we need to have a character like this to shake everything up, and I don't remember how it came about.
How about you, Chuck? Do you remember where it came about?
Well, with the female Dylan, we had something different. We had, we had all the other elements in this, and yet it didn't. And my litmus test was, as Jessica knows, and anyone from that time knows, I didn't want a mean girl or an a priori bad girl. Jonathan Littman once pitched me Laura Layton as a teenage escort. And I just said, we don't have any use for that.
Thank God.
No, it would completely, in high school, it would completely have confounded the equilibrium, which was coming out of the Walsh house. So, we wanted a hip, bohemian, music oriented, maybe in a band, maybe a cool chick from Dorchester, something looking like that, and different. And Christine, you came out to Los Angeles. And I guess I'd imagine from the first moment you were here, you knew, oh, I'm different.
Yeah.
I knew that was before I moved to LA.
Yeah, but I mean, coming here, I mean, it's like, you know, there isn't the homegirl. I mean, it isn't Boston. It's a different whole set of structure. You know?
True, but I was different in Boston too. So
Matthew said,
never mind.
When Emily's character was introduced, that is when the show really started hitting its stride. I sort of agree with that. Christine, do you remember auditioning for the show? What was that process like for you?
it was terrifying because I had to sing, and I don't sing. I'm not a singer. And the character you guys may or may not remember was the prototype, or the breakdown for the character was drop dead gorgeous, cascading red curls, you know, sings, plays guitar, and rides a motorcycle, none of which I can do. I did not have cascading red curls, and I'm not drop dead gorgeous. So I'm like, okay, I can't do that. So all I can do is be me. And that's what I did. And I had to sing Mercedes-Benz. I had to sing Janis Joplin's Mercedes-Benz a cappella in these auditions, and it was horrific. And
yet, as I can speak for Jessica here, as two people sitting in the room, we had no idea that it was horrific because it was terrific.
It was terrific. And you talk about, you say, I've heard you say how terrible you think you were singing, but you weren't. And it was, it played just great.
So she gets on the set. So our friend Christine gets on the set. She says, "No, I can't sing. I don't want to do this." It's like, what? What? You know, you're good. And it was.
I had pre-recorded it in the studio.
But you were good.
And not good enough to sing the other song because you hired a musician to sing.
What, Breaking Up is Hard to Do? We did?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a hard song.
And we are just best. And we're, who knew?
And the backup singer sang all the parts, me and the backup. So none of the four of us sang anything.
Well, there you go. Okay.
Look at that. The magic of television. Do you remember that, Chuck? I don't remember that.
It's a Kenny Miller moment, I guarantee you.
I'll tell you what else I remember. You guys, I mean, you have to imagine how intimidating it was to come on that show at that point in time. And then to have to sing that song like an asshole and pretend to play guitar, which I couldn't do. And I felt like an asshole doing that too. And like framing the guitar just out of frame so you can't see that I'm not playing it.
You were part of the 902 tradition. Luke couldn't surf.
Fair enough, but then you didn't have to like pretend to surf. Somebody else did it. I had to sit there and listen to my own voice in the quad with 8 million extras, the entire crew, and sing this song horribly to Shannon Doherty, Jenny Garth, Tori Spelling. Oh my God. I was literally, you probably don't remember this, but I would sing like, "Oh Lord, won't you buy me?" And you go, cut. And I would start crying. I cried in between takes. Action. Won't you buy me? It was my life.
Well, that's the method acting for you.
There you go.
Oh, God.
Really bad. That I will do anything I wanted.
Well, it cut together. That's all that mattered. It cut together.
Yes.
And the kissing looked real.
It's taken out of the DVDs. That's all I care about.
When you left the audition, were you like, I got that? Or were you like, no way, that's not me?
I never think, on the rare occasion I've thought that, I didn't get the job. There's been times when I was really like, there's no way someone did it. And I don't get the job. But for the most part, I'm in a blackout when I do auditions. I come out and I don't even know what happened in there. Because I can say the words and do the performance while also thinking about whether I feel fat or that my eye is twitching, and then I can hear the reaction of people in the room, and I'm taking it all in and sort of having an out-of-body other person do the actual audition. It's a really weird thing. But it's kind of like when you drive somewhere and you realize you're like 2 miles from home and you have no memory of any of that drive.
Yeah. But Chuck and Jessica, you guys were in the room, and were there other people? Were you just floored from this is Emily?
Aaron was in on this part, right, Jess?
I think so.
Eventually.
No,
there were 3 auditions. And the final one was in Aaron's office.
Right. Okay, so that's the one that matters the most. And the fact of the matter is we got him I mean, one of the reasons that Wildfire is such a cool episode, it was a great time to be on our show right then. We're now going back to high school. We weathered our mishigas with the network. We got through the Fox, the summer series. We even did the one series, the camping trip, to allow, almost the build up to getting back to school. And Aaron, so I think that we got him in that moment of he wanted, oh yeah, this is different. This is good. This can add something. I mean, he was right on board. There was never any question about wanting to have, I mean, when we put the long red hair in that, we're looking at, some combination of, Judy Collins and Carole King or something, that
And
was.
we knew we did, and we didn't have a redhead. So you took care of we didn't have, because you had multicolored hair. So
Right.
you didn't look
Even
like
better.
anybody else. That
Even
was
better.
fine.
Yeah.
You know what, though? Here's another thing that I think is funny. Everybody busts my balls for that hair with the roots. But in the scene where I'm singing Mercedes-Benz to the girls, Tori Spelling literally has the same color blonde hair I do with 2 inches of black roots. She has just a longer version of my hair, and yet she was a mainstream, she had a mainstream look, and I was this crazy girl with baggy hair. If you look back at those photos, you'll see we have virtually the same color hair from root to end. It's the craziest thing.
I mean, you
But
rocked
in
it
Aaron's
in a
mind, when he cast you, you didn't look like Tori.
No,
So because it was
Right.
important. It was important to Aaron that Tori had her place and that another Tori wasn't going to come.
That's right. And her place was now continuing to grow.
Correct.
In season 2 and on from there.
Well, outside of the look, though, Christine, how close were you to Emily Valentine back then in terms of being similar to the character?
Well, the look was certainly mine. So, the outfit that I wear in the Breaking Up Is Hard to Do in the quad, I think that's what I wore on the first audition, that pink sort of baby doll thing, this hat, and my engineer boots. So the look was certainly mine. And Christine Peters, who was the wardrobe assistant, assistant wardrobe chick, she was also a hipster, and she was great at keeping that thread going for me. The character was the same for me as I was in high school, only in that I was super punk rock in high school, and I graduated in '83. So just do the math. It was nobody punk. I was the only punk rock person, or one of 2 punk rock people in my entire high school. My high school covered from 7th to 12th grade, and there was a mistaken. People thought I was stupid and a drug addict or a bad girl in some way. And in fact, I was super goody two-shoes. I was at the time with a thing they called straight edge. I didn't drink, I didn't do any drugs, I never smoked cigarettes. I was like a straight A student, and I was the opposite of what everyone perceived me to be. So I had that in common with her. More importantly, go ahead, Chuck.
What you just described does not sound to me that includes the word punk. I mean, you still dressed, you all punk, but you were the person you just described?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
Just no clarification.
I think definitely straight edge, probably, right? That's definitely a more new term, right?
No, that was a fan of the skinhead kids, the hardcore scene in Boston and DC and stuff, New York. It's straight edge. They have big black marker X's in the back of your hand to tell other people.
I have a stepson who was straight edge, a little scary.
Don't you feel like that? I mean, I'm not a naughty girl. I think I'm pretty clever.
And also, wait, let's just clarify. Let's clarify for our audience that you were not crazy.
Correct.
The character was crazy.
In fact, you weren't even crazy to the last episode.
That's true. I don't even know if she was crazy. She was just crazy about Brandon, Emily.
No, right? She was crazy. We had to send her away to the 90210 hospital. She was definitely crazy. And then she got treated, and when she came back, she wasn't crazy anymore.
You go, you get some counseling, you come back. That was, and hers was just a little more drastic than the others. That's all. But it was we'll get more into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Horrible crime in Blue Collar, the way Ray Pruitt did.
I wanted to ask you, Christine, everyone's so young when you joined this cast. You've known them.
Not me.
Well, I mean, young to fit the show. They're much younger than they are now, right? So what were they like? What were they like back then?
Who's they? Everybody?
Yeah.
The girls were way younger than I was. When I started the show, I had a live-in boyfriend of 5 years, and I was 26 years old, and I was, I had a whole life, and it wasn't like there's a misconception that actors go to sets and suddenly everyone's best friends and you stay friends forever. It's work. So you're not going there to make friends. It's great if friendship happens, but that's not what you're there for. And I had frankly been warned that the girls might not be so nice to me on the first day I got there. So that was intimidating too, being told that. So do
you remember what you shot on the first day? What was the first day?
I think it was I'm notoriously not good at remembering things, but I think it was the scene with Dylan on the motorcycle.
Yeah. Right.
Well, how were you welcomed when you got to set? You were told it might not be good, but how was it when you got there?
Was it Ken Wagner? Is it Ken Wagner?
Paul
Wagner.
Pulled me in his office and said, the boys are going to be great. I can't promise you anything with the girls. And the girls were just basically aloof. I've really, my description of how they treated me or my experience of them has evolved to include the explanation that when you go on a set, I'm a new kid in school, literally. I'm figuratively and literally, I'm the new kid on the block in that reality, in a really huge show, in a really intimidating situation. And so if people aren't overtly, aggressively friendly, it feels like hostility because you're so insecure and so like, I don't know who I don't know where the craft service is, and I don't know who the crazy people are. So just even ignoring me felt like hostility, and pretty much that's what they did. They pretty much ignored me. Luke, on day one, and for the first couple of days I was there, went way out of his way to make sure I had someone to have lunch with, and I knew where my trailer was, and walked me all around. And Luke went out of his way to be really, really friendly, and that's a unique experience. I've never had an experience with another actor in my entire career. The series regular went so far out of their way to be nice to a guest star. It just doesn't work that way typically. With the exception of Nathan Fillion, the guy from the Castle?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He, Canadian boy, I think too, but he was also, I had a dog die on me when I was doing that show, and he went and fetched me coffee and stuff. He was super, super nice. So, and Jason is a charmer. Jason's always nice to everybody. And Brian and I are too. So the boys were really funny and flirty, and the girls were just indifferent to me.
Yeah. Interesting about Luke, every guest star that we've interviewed says the same thing, that Luke welcomed them to the set in one way or the other and went out of their way to do that. So it's an experience of and probably speaks to who he was.
Absolutely. And it's a lesson that I took with me. On the rare occasion I've been in that position, I would try to be Luke to guest stars. I would try to do the same thing.
Go ahead, Chuck. You were going to say something?
Well, people would say to me how friendly the set was. It was one of the most friendly sets, and it really was, partially because of Luke and Jason. Of course, they set the tenor, but at the same time, the crew was always pretty open and friendly. Yeah. And the actors, both male and female, really bonded with the crew because, as we've talked about, this show was made in the boonies in a warehouse across the street from where raves take place. And where they shoot porn, and we were way in the middle of nowhere in Van Nuys. And we had a caterer, so we served meals, and everybody was together if you were working.
Yeah, and truly friends. Like I went to Ross's wedding. Ross I think he was in the property department.
Oh, such a nice guy, Ross Anderson. Yeah, great guy.
And Kevin Caffrey, Kevin Caffrey, I still see at Jason's house on a regular basis, and he's the godparent to both Jason's kids. That's how.
That's that's who Jason did the driving with.
Yeah.
If you remember, the crew member, he was really close.
That's Boy Electric on the show.
Yeah.
When we talk about Wildfire, everybody I talk to about this says it's one of their favorite 90210 episodes.
That's nice.
Mainly also because this is where Dylan and Brenda get back together, so a lot of people like that, right? But also we get Emily Valentine, the new character that's coming in. So, and I think people the show needed that. But I'm curious, Chuck, the show sort of starts up. We have the song. We talk about music here, the music of 902 on the show a lot. And Addicted to Love opens this episode, or it's early on in the episode. And then they're talking about Addicted to Clothes, but we don't ever see the song performed Addicted to Clothes.
Right. Well, this
what
is
happened here, and how did
I can tell you. So when I said that this was really Jessica and Steve's, like, it's high school, here we are, this is why you wanted us here, they were so excited because we had something in place called Hello Day, which is where you did the skits, which was a Beverly Hills high school institution. I sang in Hello Day. In fact, I got the junior class, the class of 1970, kicked out for the song I sang, which is what you would expect from someone like me. But at the same time,
what'd you sing?
I sang a parody of the song Michelle.
Oh, by the Beatles.
I was the Brandon Walsh was a Politico. So if you indulge me 1 minute, I do remember it. It was this. Hello, voter. You and I were strangers to today, but I gotta say, your hair looks great, and I really can groove on your coat. How about a vote? I'm running for junior class president. My snobbery is a crime, but it's election time. I'll be your friend. I'll love you too, but don't vote for him. You can drive my car. You can be a commissioner. I forgot all the things. But what got me fired was our principal was named Willard Robinson. They called him the Doc. And I just made emphatically at the end. And to this day, and let me say, and to this day, there'll be no. I rhymed the Doc. I will fire the Doc. I will fire the Doc, and I will say this very day, no school on Pesach. And that got me fired because I said I'd fire the principal.
Oh, there you go.
That was it. And then it went on, and it was pretty funny.
So to bring this back to the
you
show,
could submit that song to the Biden campaign, maybe.
No.
But that was from Hello Day.
It was really fun. We planned to do the parody song, which is why we had the scene in the kitchen where they're writing the parody song, and where I get to hear my favorite line of all of 90210 said out loud, "I need a new bracelet to match my new nose," which just was so funny. And hearing it again after all these years made me laugh. But
and it was great. So we went to the company, the Robert Palmer's company, with the lyrics, and they passed. They said no. And then I said, well, if we can't do the lyrics, we want to use the song on the show to open the show, because and that great Montuit and Addicted to Clothes, the great stuff that Jessica and Steve, which really was the first thing we talked about the episode. You read me the parody, like, yeah, this is great. We're going here, and what ended up happening, and it's a very special moment. You can ask Jason probably doesn't remember it, but Robert Palmer tried to welch out of the deal. And you were filming the next day, and Jason's in my office, and it was the first time he understood why I was an executive producer. Yeah, I'm talking to Robert Palmer's agent. This sorry if anybody's from England, this slimy British music guy, and I said to him, yeah, you know what? We got a deal. I moved on your deal, and if you don't like it, the name of the company is here's Aaron Spelling's lawyer, Pauline Cahan. You call her. We're going forward. We have a deal. Hung up the phone. He heard me yell, and that guy went, oh, he's got that side of his personality. Wait a moment. But that's the music thing. We couldn't do what we really wanted.
So we kept the outfits, and we kept the outfit, and we changed the song.
And oldies were less costly, so breaking up is hard to do. Clearly kind of summarized where Brenda's head was.
And we got to have that great cutting back and forth between Brenda and Dylan as she sang about breaking up is hard to do. And we realized at that moment they really are going to have another shot.
I mean, it's almost genius in a way that that's the song, because Emily and Brandon could be defined as breaking up is hard to do, right?
It's foreshadowing.
Are you?
I was just gonna
Are
say.
you guys that much of geniuses that you foreshadowed it with breaking up is hard to do? No. Our friend Darren Martin, who we all love, says, "I love Chuck Rosen." So there you go. Darren was very helpful this week.
Everybody loves Darren Martin.
Beautiful guy.
Yes. So do you remember? So you shot the stuff with Luke first, then, Christine, and do you remember doing that?
No, I don't actually remember doing it. No, I remember the scenes. I remember most of the stuff is the stuff that I did with Shannon, because Shannon brought things out of me that I didn't anticipate. She was intimidating as a human, and she's a really present actress, and I did better stuff in my scenes with her than I hoped that I might. So I remember those scenes really, really well. In fact, I remember a moment at the end where I have the fight at the lockers, and I tell her I'm a virgin, but she thinks I'm a whore. And I was a pretty, I was not a super experienced actress at the time, and I'm the kind of actor when I drop a line, I go, oh, fuck, I'm sorry, fuck. And I was so into this thing with her. I was so in the zone with her. For the first time in my life, it's like on the verge of tears, yelling at her in my righteous indignation, and didn't know the line. I said, line, and the script supervisor gave me the line, and I stayed in the moment, even though I had to do that call for the line, which I'd never done before. I was so proud of myself. But she's she was a really fun actress to work opposite.
That's awesome to hear.
Well, if I can, I want to it wasn't a scene with you and Shannon, but with Luke and Shannon. And I wanted to talk about this one scene that Jessica and Steve wrote, because the one thing when you're a writer, you write a line of dialogue and the actor is going to interpret the dialogue. So if you write something like, give me a break, Dad, that can also be, give me a break, Dad, with real anger. And so what I really loved about the scene where Brenda's full throttle anger came out and wild charges came out at Dylan, Dan Attias directed Luke to almost play the whole scene in a whisper. That we often saw Luke go tete-a-tete with Brenda, Dylan go tete-a-tete with it. But Dan played it that it was almost a whisper, and it was what enabled her to get out of that attack mode and hear what he had to say. I think it's one of the most effective scenes I've seen in all of these, going back and giving episodes a second look. It's just an individual scene, really, really beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, Shannon is...
I mocked Luke for being a whisper actor for a very long time. I think in that same episode, he goes, so where should we start? It was the beginning, the middle, of the end, and they're in the car, right? The beginning. I think he says the beginning. I didn't get to watch them again because I had no freaking internet, so I couldn't watch them again. So I'm talking from pure memory. But I mocked beginning, middle, and end all in whisper talk. Every song. He's a whisper actor. That whisper thing stuck, and he did it forever. And it was hilarious and effective, but
very effective, yeah.
I have a hard time about it all the time.
You said Shannon, she's so good in these couple of episodes that we all watched again. I mean, she's really delivering on a big level at a young age. What was Shannon like?
I told you already. She was pretty much. There was no. I didn't have any. Between scenes banter with her like I did with Jason and primarily Jason. Don't both of them with Jason. So very little. Like I wouldn't say that I have really any idea. I had spent more time with Shannon in the reboot than I did ever with in the original show.
Well, we all love Shannon here, so make a note of that. I just wanted to ask you though, what was it like working? Were you a fan of the show prior to? Had you seen the season 1? So did you know when you walked in, like who Luke Perry, who Dylan is, and who Brandon is?
Yes, and there's a kind of a funny story that maybe none of you guys know. I was living with the guy I'd been living for 5 years. His name is Jamie, And that summer episodes were airing, and people were calling us saying, "Oh my God, you guys put the TV on. Jamie's twin is on TV. Jamie's twin is on TV," and it was Jason. And at the time, my boyfriend and I had this running joke. We were pretending we were both in love with this really cute chola bagger at the supermarket in Highland Park. And we would both pretend that we were like flirting with her and come back and lie that she'd given one of the others her number or something. And then, when we were like watching 90210 because everyone thought Jason looked like Jamie, I began pretending that I had a big crush on Jason. And then I get an audition with Bob Harbin, who was the head of casting at Fox. I don't know why. It's a general meeting. Hey, Bob Harbin wants to meet you. Okay, great. Bob Harbin, hey, how you doing? You know, what are you doing? What do you think of TV? And I gave a big long speech that TV was soulless and I wanted to be a film actress, and that if I had a crystal ball and would know that TV would be my entire. I'm telling the head of casting at Fox this. That if TV's going to be my whole career, I should go into plastics. And such a douchey, incredibly arrogant, weirdly bizarre thing to say to the head of casting at Fox. And he says, "Oh, okay, well, I guess I'll keep you in mind for other things." And I said, "Well, what were you thinking of now?" He said, "Oh, they're adding a character to 90210, and I thought you might be right for it." And I said, "Oh, 90210, I have to do that. I have to make out with Jason Priestley. I should never have gotten past that meeting. I should never have gotten to audition for the show." I said it joking, pulling a private joke from my life into a really incredibly intense professional meeting. And that's how I behaved, like a jackass. And somehow I got the job, and then I ended up living with Jason. So Bob Harbin must think I'm a crazy psycho stalker.
So, and I'm the one who said, "You don't resemble your character at all. You're not crazy." And
Bob Harbin and I still speak, so he doesn't think I'm crazy.
You do say hello for him. We did a pilot together. I'm very fond of him as well.
He's lovely and forgiving, apparently.
On that note, you do get to make out with both Jason Priestley and Luke Perry in this first episode. That's pretty much throwing you into the fire. Part of the pun, I guess, talking to you.
Assembly line makeout too. It was in the same location on the same day. It's like literally make out with Jason. Okay, right? Cut. Luke, get in the car.
What is that?
Who did you make out with first?
Yeah, who did you make out with first?
And then Shannon has to get in the car and do it again. It was all shot the same night. Right?
Yeah. It was a different car, obviously, but yeah, it was all the same. I don't know who came first.
So one thing, just to tell the audience and the fans to know this, most likely that night when all that was filmed was a Friday night, because you always want to end a week on your night shooting and start early on Monday because of union rules.
Yes.
Even though we were a non-union show at that point.
But the actors were union, and they were required.
The actors were union.
They had to have a 12-hour turnaround.
Right. So you always do night 12 stuff.
Hours.
So, we could have kept you there to 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Probably not, because it was residential. The permit would be struck at 2.
Yeah.
Most likely, but
do you recall doing those scenes though with both of those guys?
Yes.
What was that?
It's bizarre. Like people think I used to not be unable to do interviews and have any humor. I was answer everything super earnestly and tell the truth about it, and it made for very boring interviews. And I learned from Noah Wiley actually on ER how they don't really want the answer to the question they ask you. They want you to say something funny. And Noah Wiley's really good at that, and so is Jason actually. Like Jason would be on like Letterman or whatever, and they ask a question and Jason wouldn't answer it. I'd be yelling at the TV. That's not the question they asked you. So the question I got asked a lot though was who's a better kisser, Jason or Luke? And then when I did ER, I had made out with Noah, and then off camera made out with George Clooney as well. And so that question came up. I've been asked that question, who's better, a lot, and the real answer is I don't really know. No one who's kissed me on camera knows what it's like to kiss me, because that's not how I kiss in real life. It's a screen kiss. It's not like, I have a no tongue rule. It's gross. And except for the time when I was living with Jason doing scene, and I watched them now, it's vile to watch us actually really kiss. It's so obscene. So I would never want somebody to think that kisses me in a scene to think that they know what it's like to kiss me. So I have no idea what it's like to kiss Luke Perry. I do know what it's like to kiss Jason, but I don't know what it's like to kiss Noah, and I don't. And I feel like I gave that answer one time when they asked about Noah. I feel like I hurt Noah's feelings by not just saying he's the best kisser on earth. I just should have said because it's a cuter answer, and that's what people want to hear. And I was like, I don't know. I don't really kiss him. So that.
But wait a minute, I'm going to call you now because you did really kiss Jason. So was Jason's kiss similar on screen as it is off screen, or no?
Not until the later episodes where we were really a couple, and like I said, they were seeing kisses that I can't watch anymore.
I see. Yes.
He's like my brother. It's gross.
But you do get to work with him a lot, Jason, in this early part. I mean, they're going to pair you two up, and you had made that comment to the casting. What is it like working with him at that age, before you started dating, before all that stuff? What is Jason like back then, acting-wise? And you kind of said some things nicely when he was here. Maybe
not here. I'm going to tell you the truth. No, what I said, what she said then. He was amazing. He was 21 years old when I did my first episode. I think by the time I came back, he had turned 22 or was turning 20. So I've known him his entire adult life. And at 21, he was the master of that set. He was the grown-up in the room. He was super generous to everybody. Really, I was always nice to the crew. I never thought of the crew and actors as being on a different plane, but he clearly made that, like, that was very clear on that set. And he, like I said the last time, he was so talented that he could be doing a scene and see that I'm not on my mark, and like without even breaking the scene, like I didn't break the scene in my thing with Shannon, he would like just reach under the out of frame and pull me onto my mark while talking to me this whole time, and you wouldn't even see his hand out of frame. But he was just really comfortable and so adult, and and he wouldn't tell me how old he was. I didn't know. I thought he was older than I thought he wouldn't tell me his age because he was old, but it would turn out he didn't tell me his age because he was young. But he was really. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him how to behave on a set. I learned a lot about from him ultimately how to behave in public when people are intrusive and overwhelmed by their awful clump because they're meeting Brandon Walsh, and I also learned from him. The reason I ended up writing for the show was I learned from him to take advantage of opportunity when it's right there in front of you. When you have access to people and opportunities like directing or producing, take them. And he'd buy walkie-talkies and rent them back to the show. The show used to have a big sit-in like racing video game that the show would rent every year for huge money and then give it back because shows can't maintain assets from year to year. So they couldn't actually own it. They had to rent it. Well, Jason bought it and then rented it back to the show. Like, it was really.
Oh yeah. He was giving people stop tips back then at 21, 22, 23. He wasn't telling us what horse to bet. He was telling us what, this tech stock or this Canadian company. Yeah, I do remember all of that. Very sharp.
So that's why I made my attempt to start writing for the show. Was I watched that and I thought I have access, I should take advantage of it, and so I did.
Yeah, I think we could bring you back at some point to talk about some of the writing that you did for 90210. I think that would be a lot of fun to talk about. Speaking of the writing, one thing that I love about, and I wrote this in my notes to Chuck, is that 90210 always, back in those days, gets high school like totally spot on. Brandon goes in and tells Brenda, oh my God, you're not gonna believe what happened with with Emily at school with Dylan, and she gets right on the phone with Kelly. Jessica, how are you able to write for high school like that?
We all wrote for high school. We were writing the lives that we led in high school. Chuck was writing about Beverly Hills. Steve was writing about Beachwood, Ohio. I was writing about New York City. But there's a universality to the experience of being young that we were lucky enough to still remember. And I went on and wrote about high school for years after 90210. Part of what makes it great to write about people that age is everything's happening to you for the first time. So the emotions are all so heightened, and the highs and the lows. I mean, I've said many times that you could be so incredibly depressed, but if the right person calls and says, "Come to a party," You will. You're suddenly awake and you put on a dress and you go and you have a good time. And to me, it was that the great thing about 90210 was the roller coaster, the emotional roller coaster that everybody was on. And the show had different flavors, and in one episode, multiple flavors. And I find it really entertaining to look back and watch these things because it touches me.
Do you remember our slogan, Jessica, at those years?
You can repeat it, Chuck, because Larry and I have talked about it.
Helping to keep America immature.
That was not the one I thought you were going to say.
That was the only one that we
Kissing is
really,
good.
you think about it.
No, and kissing is good.
Jessica is the best.
Kissing is good.
Jessica is the best high school writer of all time.
That is the nicest thing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Oh.
After 90210, flash forward years later, I'm writing another high school show, and my daughter was in high school by that time. And so instead of writing my high school experience, I was writing her high school experience. And there were changes, as you know, the world changed, the kids changed. But one of the nicest letters that Aaron ever shared with us, because there were so many letters coming in all the time from all over the world about 90210. And one kid wrote from Russia. And Aaron, I remember, was in his office.
Oh, yeah. He loved that letter. That was his letter.
And he said, "How do you know us so well?" This kid wrote. And it was so, it made us all really proud because the kid experience was the same emotionally.
Spelling Entertainment had a very strong international distribution company. And we were so lucky because when we finished our first year is the same year that most of Western Europe opened up another commercial network. And they needed programming. And that's why Baywatch and Beverly Hills 90210 played all around the world, because there were so many new slots to fill. So it was really exciting for us. We were in Russia. Soviet Union had just fallen. And some oligarch probably who, is all up Putin's ass today. But he bought the... we were on early, and we would get these letters, and it really meant a lot to him.
I was in a gift shop at the Vatican must have been season 4 or whatever, and we were in the gift shop. There's a postcard of Jason Priestley in the Vatican.
Wow!
So it was like this is too much.
And they loved us in Italy.
By the 23rd minute in this episode of Wildfire, Emily Valentine is in this episode in a very big way. The entire school is like shook by her presence. You know what I mean? Oh, the girls even say, we have a word for her, right? Slut. Jessica, for you, do you think that, I mean, you guys make it work at the end of the episode that she's not, but do you think that ages well? The 4 girls saying that about that character.
I think that it was wrong of them to say it then, and I think it would be wrong today, and I think she redeemed herself. But what I liked about the character and what I wrote, because the girls were wrong, was this girl was connected to her own sexuality, and she would kiss whoever she wanted to kiss, and she would get birth control pills so that she would be okay if she decided to sleep with one of them. I thought she was a fabulous character, and she represented my belief system that way. And yes. I'm sure there was somebody who thought I was a slut at the time. So we've
pointed out that we wanted characters to do things wrong so they learn from their behavior.
But she didn't really, at that time, in the beginning of the episode, she really hadn't done anything wrong.
Right.
She went out with 2 boys. She kissed 2 boys, but she says it to Brenda. I didn't sleep with them. I wouldn't have gone out with your brother if I had slept with Dylan the night before. I wouldn't have done that. She had her own moral code that she was living by.
Christine, what do you think about this?
I would like to interject that if you're asking about how it ages, as far as the way, I think it's still as wholesome a version of high school as it ever. I think kids are so much meaner now. Kids are provoking other kids to commit suicide.
Yes.
Cruelty has gone to the next level. So that you can't say that 4 girls calling another girl a slut has somehow doesn't age well because, bullying is bad. Bullying is off the chart, and that's still a quaint version of bullying. And Emily didn't even hear it.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Today it would all be on social media.
Yeah, on social media.
His life would be destroyed.
Yeah.
But when you read that, Christine, when you read that Emily is going to shake up the show this way, what are your thoughts on that when you were reading that?
Well, first of all, when I got the job, it was for 1 episode with the possibility of 10. So it was just a 1 episode job, really. That was the only guarantee I had. And I liked it. I love the moral of the story being don't judge a book by its cover. I've said that a lot. I think that's a fantastic lesson. And I also, it was my personal experience in high school as well. And I think that's a really important message to tell kids. So I loved it.
Yeah, it was cool. And when you guys wrote her for 1 and then you loved her and you were like, we're going to do more with her. How did that play out for you guys, Chuck?
Exactly. It was your protection when you had an art. You don't want to. You got to see the good. You got to see if there's chemistry. You have to. And it was clear there was. And it wasn't. I don't believe if we go through the numbers. I don't believe that it was 10 episodes from. Maybe it was from Wildflower to My Desperate Valentine.
I think it was like the possibility of 10, and you guys gave me a 7 out of 10. Is what I think.
7 out of. Oh, okay. Instead of 7 out of 12, it was a 7 out of 10.
I think.
The other song obviously identified with you is the Chris Isaak song, "The Wicked Game," and you said one time you were popped in here. It's such a great song, and it really becomes like a 90210 iconic thing for so many different things. But
that's a Brenda Dillon song.
No, but you made out to it too.
Yeah.
But didn't you make out to it too? I think you.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah, you were in the car on the first day.
It
played twice in the episode.
Okay. I don't even remember having it for me. I remember how effective it was in the Brenda Dillon thing. It was really heartbreaking. It was well used there.
Yeah. Chuck, I think we talked about it in the music episode, but was Chris Isaak a fan of the show? How did you guys get Chris Isaak?
This was, it was one of Darren, REM and Chris Isaak. He said, we need these guys. And he went with Kenny Miller, and he brought Chris Isaak in. He knew that song would play.
Yeah.
It's a great song.
And it's great.
But you said, I think, Christine, you said that is that song, if you hear it on the radio, it does put you back in that time period?
Me?
With Brenda and Dillon, though.
Not with you. Yeah.
No, I'm solidly Team Brenda, too, so.
Oh, boy, don't go there. We did that last week.
And we did more than enough of that.
Let's talk about Euphoria. When they tell you that you're going to be slipping a drug into Jason's or Brandon's drink, what do you think of that storyline?
Chuck, you may or may not remember.
Yeah. You go on. You know what the truth is. You start, and I'll tell what the truth is too.
Okay.
I was sad that she was doing bad things, and in fact, I was saying to Jason, I'm sad about this. I don't like this. She's going crazy. It's bumming me out. He's like, you should call Aaron Spelling. I can't call Aaron Spelling. He's like, you should call Aaron. Hold on. He dials who has a cell phone back then? Jason. Dials Aaron's number, puts me on the phone. I'm like, oh God, hello, it's Mr. Spelling's office. Can I speak to Aaron Spelling? Who's calling? Christina Elise. Aaron Spelling takes the call, which he should not have done. Are you seeing this pattern of me being incredibly arrogant and stupid? You call Aaron and complain about the storyline. And I was like, I'm really bummed that she's going crazy. So don't worry, we're going to redeem her. It'll all be great. And, maybe we'll give you a spinoff. And I was like,
He said that? Aaron said that?
And I'm like, humana. And he goes, what? Have I ever lied to you? I'm like, well, you've never spoken to me before. So he effectively shut me up. And then I went to set. and there was a scene written where I was supposed to be high on Euphoria and dancing on a table singing Euphoria to the tune of Gloria, and I never knew which Gloria you guys intended. Was it like Gloria, or like, U2's Gloria, or there's a lot of Glorias?
You got the choice between some Gloria, and Van Morrison. Where do you think I would line up? Yeah,
okay.
No one's going to be standing like high on cocaine, dancing on a table, singing cocaine. So I was disgruntled, and I complained about it, and somebody told Chuck I was complaining about it, and the message I got back was, tell her to say the fucking lines like I fucking wrote them. But then
did I say that? Jeez.
You said, say the lines that's fucking written.
There is that point of view. Some people were much worse, they put it on the script. Ed Zwick, you cannot change a line without calling the producer, and but there is this creed with some of us who aren't that familiar with the inner dynamic of what it takes to be an actor. There's the school of thought: know your lines, hit your marks, and go home.
Don't you?
And that really is always a safe, strategy for an actor, some ways, especially on a series. And so, but the truth is, what Christine did not know until many, many years later, and we had personal friendship through Jay and saw each other other times, I lost this battle because I did not want her to slip him a Mickey. I thought that was total bullshit. And I thought we could get more out of it if Jay finally caved to peer pressure because he wanted to get into the girl's pants. I'm sorry. That's what guys did. And, McDermott, they just wouldn't go there. And Aaron knew that I had lost the battle when you called him. And he stayed value neutral on that. Aaron picked his battles, and that wasn't one he was going to have. And ultimately, I lost it. I mean, what are you going to do? So we had to have. So if you're going to do something as stupid as slip someone a Mickey, well, then you better burn down the house. You better burn the float. I mean, so when I lost the battle is when the notion of a fire came out. That's how I remember it, Jessica. Do you remember?
I don't remember because after having written Wildfire, Allison Adler, I think, is who wrote Euphoria.
Oh, you mean somebody? There's a name that's credited on here. That's not you or me.
Right. Somebody was credited.
You want to make that straight. You're going to find that about the next 5 or 6, 7 episodes. You're going to see names and. I don't remember any of them. I remember Jessica and me.
There are people who are listed as story editors and producers of the show who I don't remember as we get through into seasons 5, 6, and 7. Don't even remember them at all. But I do remember that this episode, we must have been on to our next one because we wrote a lot that year because
we did a lot.
Because you did that, you took over that episode. We were not.
Sure did. That was we went to Chucky. Oh yeah, Chucky's back. That was one of your terrific ones. That's
So that was we were really, really.
That was your episode.
Chucky's back. Yeah, I love that episode.
Then came Darren. Then came Darren doing a Walsh Family Christmas, and after that was Carl Sutter, who was Paul's partner, and then with a little assist from me doing Fire and Ice. So that's who was doing stuff at that point. So we had Darren, we had Jessica and Steve, we had me, and it was a rotation. And then Darren springs on us. I'm going to this up into West Hollywood in Melrose Place, and we had just lost a third of our brain trust, and a major part of it. But it's not even fair to call him a third. He's the creator of the show.
I want to show you this scene, Christine. I think you and Jason are phenomenal in this little bit.
Brandon, are you on something, man?
What?
Yeah, the hood of my car, same as you.
Where'd you get that little scar on your eyebrows? So cute.
I don't believe this.
Oh, hey, Brandon, relax. I feel great. I feel stoned, man. Like you're the expert. I mean that in a good way. You handle your alcohol thing real good. Look, shut up, man.
So negative. Really, man.
Vibes, you guys.
Hi.
You guys
I'm wearing those earrings right now.
There you go, and that's the real hat, right? That's the Emily Valentine hat. I saw somebody ask me that. Yes, that is her. That is the hat. Do you remember doing all this stuff on the car? And obviously, there's the more infamous thing that you do on the car. Let me show that real quick.
I always thought that if someone would be tempted to get stoned, it would be you.
Well, I get tempted every day. Come on. Oh, hey, come on, guys. Don't go away, man.
Just go away.
Iconic line.
I do believe that was ad-libbed. Am I
You think it
wrong?
was ad-libbed?
I think
Really?
don't go away, Matt, just go away. I feel like that was ad-libbed.
Could be, you know, Jay was great at ad-libbing. Most of this, as I'm watching this scene and I'm remembering, this one really fell a lot on, at least at one pass, on Jonathan Roberts' desk, because the scene with the egg is 100% him. So he must have done more than just that.
That's my favorite scene in the entire series. The scene with
I've heard that before. I've heard that from
with Ian and Gabby.
And yeah, well, I mean, you brought the you know, you do the first bit with the egg. I'm curious where I mean, we talked about in one of the other episodes we had Gabrielle the egg line itself, but where did the whole concept of going to a liquor store for this party invite come from? Was that a thing back then, Chuck, that you had heard about?
I can interject.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I used to. I'm telling you that I'm a goody two shoes. But back in the 80s, Jamie and I used to host the exact same kind of club that we ended up going to. We used to host these itinerant illegal nightclubs downtown. We'd rent a warehouse for one night, and on my credit card, rent he's like, I want to be a DJ. I'm like, okay, now you're going to be a DJ. And so we did these clubs. And so I'd rent DJ equipment. I'd rent a location in some warehouse downtown for one night. We'd rent generators if we had to. We'd buy alcohol, and I would work the door, and Jenny would be the DJ, and we used to do these. I actually do these clubs. Like I used all on my credit card, which is incredibly reckless. I could have been jailed for a very long time. We're selling alcohol after hours, potentially to minors, without a license to do any of it. No insurance. And downtown, I don't know why we didn't get robbed by just random like gangsters down there. But you do, one of the ways in which you try to avoid bullshit way to try to avoid going to jail is when Jamie would flyer, I'd stay home and read. I was a big reader. I'd stay home reading. He'd go to the other clubs to flyer our club. And the flyer didn't have the club's address on it. It had a different address. It wasn't a liquor store, but it was an address. And then somebody would be at that address on the night of the event with a map to the real address. So that if police went to the real address on the map, on the invitation, it wouldn't be a club there. And then, you know, theoretically, you wouldn't hand a real invitation to an actual cop.
And by the way, I did a pilot in 1999 for Fox, and we did a rave, and it was the exact same thing then. There was that protocol. You didn't know where the rave was.
Yeah.
Just, you know, slightly different. I mean, they were illegal. They were.
We would even do the other stupid thing, like we wouldn't sell alcohol. We would sell we'd always have a different thing, like a little trinket. We'd buy like 100 little plastic camel charms, and you'd go and you'd buy a plastic camel charm for $10, and then go trade that somewhere else in the room for a drink. So we weren't technically selling alcohol; we were selling plastic charm. It's just so dumb. It was so ridiculously illegal.
But did alcohol mix with ecstasy?
No ecstasy. No, this is pre-ecstasy. This is the 80s. This is like before.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Because that Euphoria was ecstasy.
Yeah.
That was a made-up name for ecstasy.
Right. And the other party drug, Quaaludes, was already gone. So you couldn't, that was not there anymore.
Todd H is asking about, and by the way, Todd H does all of our clips. Thank you, Todd, for all the help that you do here with the show. We would not be able to.
Good job, Todd.
Yeah. He wants to know I'm assuming he's talking about Don't Go Away, the Don't Go Away Mad, which, by the way, you can get Just Go Away at the Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away t-shirt at our show shop, Beverly Hills 90210 show shop.
And where you can get this one as well. There
you go.
I'm lucky to have.
There you go. It does look a lot like the Peach Pit After Dark. So was that filmed outside the studio where they were on the car and all that?
No, it wasn't. Where we filmed, and it was, I just went over the second season. I looked at everything in the second season, and really have to say that in terms of production, this was the production of the second season, and it really comes because of a guy, our DP at the time, named Dan McKinney. Remember him, Daniel, from back to North Carolina after this season when the show went union, and he and the camera crew went non-union. And had we stayed a non-union show, excuse me, had we stayed a non-union show and they had voted for that, he would have come back as a DP. But he did really beautiful work on this, and he had those special lights, and it was right across the street.
Yeah.
So if you don't have trucks and you don't move your trucks and you don't leave the area, you just save the bundle. And when you save the bundle, you could put the money back into the show on lighting and on extras. So production-wise, it was really cool. Everything you see was in a warehouse across the street, whereas the Peach Pit After Dark, that brick facade that you see where we put that in, that was a warehouse on our side of the street across from the alley. This was almost directly across the street in one. And you chuckled when I made the references to all the pornography being made on our block, but that was, we would have adult actresses come in to the, and really excite Dan Evans. You know, he'd come in and you know, these very chesty women and looking for the sets, but no, they were across the street, actually. Happened many times. Yes.
You got it. Todd says thanks. Okay. Now we're going to get to a spot here where Emily's going to destroy the float, right? And what did you think of that?
Me?
I'm asking. Yeah. Sorry.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, at that point, I'm committed. You know, I was just gone off the deep end, and I made my play to have it not happen that way, and so then that's it. I tried, I failed, so I said the fucking lines as fucking written, and I committed to it. You know, like that's it. This is the character that I'm playing. I have a theory. My personal approach to acting, playing a character, is you have to be on the character's side. You have to absolutely believe that what the character is doing is the right thing to motivate you, but to be on her side and be like, yeah, like if you were her best friend, you'd be saying, yeah, that's what you should do. You should be trashing that float because that guy's an asshole and those people all suck, and you know, so you have to feel it and be on her team.
Yeah.
And so I did. I was secretly wearing a belt buckle that said "Don't flick my bick." That I'd gotten at the Rose Bowl flea market the weekend before. I was really careful that it never was seen on camera because I thought you guys would kill me if you saw that I had a "Don't Flick My Bick" brass belt buckle on live before I was really sitting there flicking a bick. But yeah, that was great. That was a really great scene to do. It's fun to trash stuff. It's really good because it gets you worked up. And again, the scene with Shannon, like Shannon just delivers. So.
Yeah, I think that's running some of the most powerful stuff with the two of you there. It's iconic, so I'm glad that you did it. Because, you know, go ahead, Jessica.
I loved having you on the show, and watching these episodes confirmed for me what a wonderful character you were, and that you gave her humanity comes through so beautifully. I mean, she was a little nutty, but she felt it in her heart. She did love him, and it made her crazy. It was definitely our fatal attraction, and you had many, many layers and many nuances in your performance that were lovely.
Absolutely, and we're rewarded as such. And I've got all these statistics that I got in preparation for doing all these podcasts, and this was our highest in my years, and I think. Probably, maybe till the end. I'm not quite sure what the last episode with the wedding in season 10 got, but this was the highest rated episode that was done in my 5 years doing the show by far.
The fire?
By much more than Commencement. We're the highest rate. We had the most viewers on this episode. That's how I break it down in millions.
So I have to bring up something that Chuck will appreciate, and we've talked a little bit about it before. We had a rule that in every episode we had to say West Beverly and Beverly in the same scene, in the same sentence, I think. Each episode we tried to outdo ourselves in how clever we were to slide it in. And this one topped them all because it was on the float. It was the Blaze headline. It was the Blaze, and it was the mock-up of the Blaze. Beverly beats West Beverly beats Beverly for the first time or something like that. And it was a perfect It was a perfect moment for
That's
me.
amazing.
It's the question I get asked most often. I get asked more often than who's a better kisser, Brandon or Dylan. I get, why'd you burn the float?
Yeah.
Which I didn't do, actually, which is my answer. Which is the
I
unfunny answer.
I kept waiting. In my memory, the whole float burned.
Same.
But I was like, she never lit the match.
Yeah, no, she never burned the float. Yeah. Connie Ziegler says that the music during the scene when she's throwing the gasoline is awesome. I agree with that. I don't know if we talk about the music, like the score music, sometimes enough here on the show, but that little classical piece,
Well, it was intercut.
Exactly.
That was our Godfather moment as we were intercutting between the murders and the baptism. This was us intercutting between the concert and the burn down the house.
Yeah.
Most likely, off the top of my head, the man who created the theme song probably did the score of this one.
No, I think it was a classical. I think they said it was Paganini. Maybe it was, so whatever. It wasn't scored.
Oh, okay.
We're doing a puzzle right now, which is famous operas.
Oh,
there you go. All right.
Sorry.
I'm going to let Lily ask some fan questions. There's been a ton of them, right? So
There are.
Yeah.
So I'll start with this one. This one actually came up a few times. A lot of the fans have asked, what was the reaction after the mental illness episodes? Was there any backlash? And did the show or Christine receive any types of letters, overwhelming letters? And what was the response?
I did not, but you didn't. But it was very difficult to contact people back then. You had to do write a letter and find a place to mail it to, and then I had to find mail to get to you somehow. So I did not. But you guys.
Unfortunately, at the end of the first year, Aaron chose to have all the letters go to a fan club, and so we didn't get to see very much, as opposed to in season 1 where we saw a lot before he controlled all the mail. So. I don't have a specific answer to that, but in terms of what was the reaction of the fans at the time, really, but I do know that we just moved on. We had a next episode to shoot, and the next episode to shoot after that, and there was no time to think of Christine. And I don't really know. I do not believe in my mind thinking about this, Christine, and we're not dealing into seasons 4 and 5 on this particular video cast, but I don't think we wanted you back, and I think you were already a couple with Jason, and we probably knew that, but at the same time, we wanted the character back. That was more important than the fact that you had a personal relationship with the star. That wasn't why you came back. It's what you did when you were here. Mm-hmm. And when you need episodes, we have 32 of them to do, and here's a friend of the show and knows your character and can factor into the romantic mixes. So.
The other thing that started to happen, though, is we started getting press. The show was getting so much press, and as like Entertainment Weekly or whatever would come out with things, it was always mentioned, and Emily Valentine, it was like suddenly, Emily was part of the story, the saga of.
We could do an entire video cast on the relationship between Entertainment Weekly and the show Beverly Hills 90210. We kind of helped them become the entity that they became. And
Jessica Shaw. Wasn't her name Jessica Shaw, the one who was assigned to us all the time?
I talked to her, I forget. Yes, exactly. And they would talk about how much the episode that we love the show. We love the show. Gosh, do we love the show? We're going to interview her. It's going to be great. And then they come out with the article. They'll slam this. They'll slam that. They'll slam that. And then we go back again because, not once, not twice, but about 5 times.
But as far as the handling mental illness, that was the show's stock and trade. You guys were handling difficult issues for teenagers like date rape and bulimia and these things. So I don't know that particular subject matter would stand out the way, because it wasn't the only topic, the only sensitive topic.
I thought it was interesting that we had Andrea diagnose you. That was, I didn't remember that until I rewatched these episodes. And then Andrea says she has
borderline personality.
borderline personality disorder. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, is that what it is? Oh,
No,
interesting.
I didn't, because you can't cure that with Prozac. Because I dated a guy with borderline personality disorder.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say that's exactly right.
Dr.
Can't
Andrea
do that.
Tuckemer. Yeah.
We were
She
foreshadowing
must
their
have
experience
she must
at
have been a
medical
little
school.
bipolar, and they gave her lithium or something. I don't know.
I named
Yeah.
the drug. I said Prozac on the show.
Oh, did you?
Oh,
Good.
you named
Tara
your real
says,
drug. That is so funny.
I love
Okay.
you.
Our errors in omissions insurance missed that one, I guess.
Yeah.
Tara says she loves you and you're one of her favorite characters on the show. What else you got, Lily?
All right, so Jason Decker wants to know, Christine, do you still adore the music of your youth, or are you over it? Do you still go to shows, of course, pre-COVID? And did you take Jason to any hardcore shows back in the day?
No, as far as I'm concerned, and this is a controversial opinion, but I'm an old lady. That's not controversial. That's just a fact. But in my opinion, the hardcore scene was over by '84. So, and my friends my boyfriend in high school was a singer in a hardcore band called SSD. My best friend, best friend in the world, oldest best friend, was the bass player in that band. And all the Boston hardcore guys are my family to this day. One of them was here because he helped me. He got laid off, so I'm going to hire him to fix some concrete stairs in my backyard. He's my brother. I've known him since I was 17. So the whole hardcore community is Boston hardcore is truly my family. They are my chosen family and my people I have at my holiday tables to this day. But hardcore for me was never the music. Hardcore specifically was not music that I found supremely listenable. I was punk rock before the hardcore scene in Boston existed, and I had a much broader taste in music. I was listening to Rick. I saw Prince in 1981 on St. Patrick's Day in 1981 because I was into Prince as well as punk. Like I was Rick James and Prince, and then Siouxsie and the Banshees and the Cramps, and so I had a really broad taste. And I still listen to all of the old music from my youth. I do still listen to, but not so much hardcore.
I just would like to point out that that person asked that question in multiple forms. He really wanted to get it out there. So I hope that was Jason, right? There you go,
yes,
Jason.
the email.
Sure. All you have to do is be a little persistent here, and we'll make sure the question gets right through. All right, Lily.
He also
else?
asked if you got to meet the late great Lux Interior when the Cramps played at the After Dark.
I wrote Gypsies, Cramps, and Thieves. I got to write dialogue for Lux Interior. The Cramps were my number 2 band of all time in high school. And yes, I didn't get to meet him though, because I was a jaded douche. And I was like, oh, I'm over it. And I didn't even go to the set when the Cramps were there. It's one of my great regrets in life is that I didn't go to set like a supremely arrogant douche. I did not show up.
All right, yes, and I think Larry wants to talk about that at some point. The Cramps.
I'm sure he does. He loves
He's
that.
a huge fan. Yeah. Okay, Lily. What else? Larry?
All right.
Yes, go ahead.
So the quote that Emily says to Brenda, this isn't Beverly Hills, it's Knots Landing. When I got to school, they should have given me a scorecard instead of a class schedule so I could keep track of everyone's boyfriends. Melinda Berg wants to know, for the writers, who came up with that quote?
It's a great one.
You, Steve, somebody, probably Steve or Jess, as they say, they're on the top of their game. That's a nice line. So
it is a nice line.
There's a bunch of really awesome lines. A lot
of fun lines here.
Yeah, there really is.
And also remember too, Darren was an executive producer, so he would read a script and Darren would throw in a line or here or there, and he was good at that, if I remember correctly. When he had the time to read somebody else's script.
Like the 11th commandment. The 11th commandment, thou shall not talk to Brenda Walsh's boyfriend or whatever. That was another great little line that Emily says. What else you got, Lily?
In that where I say that Knots Landing stuff to Shannon is another moment where I welled up and was tearful and didn't anticipate it. That's the most fun thing as an actor when you have an idea of how a scene's going to go and it goes differently but well. Shannon just in my opinion, brought the best out of me. I have my best work on that show with her, and that, including with that line was spoken.
Yes, we love Shannon. Go ahead, Lily.
All right. So Lori Ebersole has asked, do you think that, Christine, do you feel that Emily Valentine got the closer she deserved in the series?
So I went off to the Cousteau Institute, right? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? A lot of people got shipped off to France, didn't they? Isn't France? Is people want to die?
I think Claire got shipped off.
Either France or Hazleton. It's one or the other.
I mean, the fact is, I love the show and I love, working on it. And I wish that I had been a series regular on that show. By the way, the spinoff that was supposed to happen was Melrose Place, and that
I was going to just ask you about that.
Okay.
I've been waiting to ask you this since you made a post about it a few months ago, and you said something about not enough money, Melrose Place, and I noted it to ask you when you came back on the podcast. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Just that when Aaron said, "Don't worry, we're going to give you a spinoff," and I was like, "Hamana." The spinoff did actually get it. I had meetings with Darren and with Duke Vincent and Aaron, and Emily Valentine. Everyone was, "Who are you going to play on the show?" I would have played Emily Valentine. That's what a spinoff is. I wasn't going to play somebody else's, So it was supposed to happen, and I was all into it. It didn't happen ultimately because I was afraid. Everybody already assumed that I'd gotten the job on 90210 because I knew Jason, which isn't how it happened. And then if I got another show that was tied to Aaron and basically tied to Jason, I would envision the next 5 years of my life where Jason and I are like, here's Jason Priestley from 90210 and Christina Lees from Melrose Place, doing these joint presentations on the Emmys. And then forever my career is so entwined with Jason Priestley. And it would appear that to the world that I owed my entire life to Jason. That wasn't something I was super into having happen, and ultimately they offered me some money that I felt wasn't a fair trade for for the perception that I was letting the world sell me into,
So did you audition for it?
No,
did you physically read a part or just have the conversation?
No, she would have played Emily Valentine. She would have played Melrose Place as Emily.
As Emily.
Wow.
You know what I just learned? Here's the second thing, Jess. So, this is the timing. I just looked at when did this episode air? When would you have had this conversation? And when did I know that Darren had just written a pilot called Melrose Place? You were helping Darren.
So here's
Steve, and it was before this.
It was. And what was really interesting, the night before Darren was supposed to go to the network to pitch this show that he had told Aaron he was doing called Melrose Place, a couple of nights before, he came to our apartment and said, "You got to help me. I got nothing." So we just sat with him and he came up with characters and story and who was going to be the crossover and whatever. And all this stuff we helped him with. And he then goes and he ultimately makes Melrose, and some of the things we suggested happened and some didn't happen and whatever. And then we write the episode of 90210 where Grant Show is in there and that we bring him in and blah, blah, blah. Now flash forward, I don't remember how many years, Darren and Aaron get sued. The company gets sued by some guy who claimed to have invented Melrose Place and that Darren stole it.
Bryce Table.
Is that who it was? Okay. And we were brought in. We gave depositions because we knew he couldn't have possibly stolen it because we wrote it with him in our kitchen. He didn't have anything to have stolen.
Yeah. And because Jessica just brought this up, I was in I also got deposed. It's the only time I've ever been deposed. And I was in a rock and a hard place because my partner on 3 shows that I had done in the 80s was Michael Filerman. And he was the executive producer on one side, and the network executive was Bob Greenblatt, both who were friends of mine. And it was like that moment in, the Woodward Bernstein movie where you're waiting for them to ask the question and they don't ask me. So I don't have to get into a conflict about saying anything about what Jessica just brought up.
Wow, that's really fascinating stuff. I can't even believe
But what happens with spin-offs is somebody is the person who's going to walk you from one show to another. And it's called an embedded pilot when you do an episode that has the person in it who is the crossover person. So because I guess you said no, Grant's show became the one we had to embed in 90210, who then crossed over.
I can tell you exactly right before you created Grant's show, because I was thinking at the time, with all my savvy, Like, they don't have any time to create another spin-off character. They're going to have to make this deal with me because they have no time to make a new person and get any kind of a following for that person in order to spin them off. And you guys created Grant and spun him off like in 2 episodes. Like, it was like, it's a show, you know? And
somebody used to say to me, how long does it take to write an episode? And I'd say, how long do I have? And we Chuck?
Did you get a character payment for
Do you know the answer to this before you're asking the question? Because it's a very sore point.
My memory has just been jolted here.
Okay. So I just said that you get a character payment when you happen to be the one that it falls on you to introduce the character. So I got Emily Valentine. Steve and I got Emily Valentine, and we got Mrs. Teasley, the principal of the high school, of Beverly Hills High. Beverly
Lindsay Price.
You got Lindsay Price. So that is so funny. So, but back to Chuck's question. Did we get Grant's show? Which we should have, because we introduced him on 90210, and then he carried the series.
We should have
gotten $1 or $30 or $50, whatever it was, for every year of Melrose Place.
Wow.
And the first time that you have to wait a few months. Time goes by, we don't get the character payment, and I called the union or whoever it is. I forget who it is you call. And Darren Star got the character payment. And I said, no, that's not correct. And it became an arbitration or a big dispute. Darren took it, and he stood and he demanded it. And he said that he had created the character of Grant Show, whatever his name was on the show. He created the character when he pitched it to the network. And he had an outline, and I'm thinking, you pitched it, we gave you to the network.
He pitched it with me. I was a spin-off character.
And it was like, we all those nights in the kitchen, all those long hours, the least you could have done was throw us the bone of the Grant Show, but he kept it. So
the luckiest person in terms of character payments is the guy who wrote the very first episode after the pilot, because he got Dylan McKay and was the only one he wrote.
And who was that?
His name's David Sten. And that was it.
But it really is like $30. It's not like some money.
But if you take $30,
it depends how much. It depends how many other characters are in there. It's a pie, and you break it up depending on how many other characters were there. That was the union rule.
It was nice having Darren Star on that one time. So.
Yeah, as if he's ever going to come back now.
That big mouth Jessica Klein just,
You got to come back, Darren.
No, he'll come back. It's a long time ago. Lily, go ahead. You got a couple more for us here.
I do. Alicia Bogner wants to know, when you came for Christine, when you came back in season 4, did it get any easier with the cast with regard to them being receptive?
As a matter of fact, yes, probably before season 4. 4 and 5. So actually, maybe it happened in between, because I was living with Jason, so I would see them. There was a big chunk of time where I would see them all the time before I'd come back to the show. And all the girls individually came to me at some point and said, "Sorry, I was a bitch." They all did, except for Gabby, who hadn't been a bitch.
No reason for her to say that, right?
But, and with whom I have a lesbian affair now. They all did. They all apologized, but it was I noticed it. I noticed you weren't nice to me, but it didn't. It wasn't like I went home and cried about it. So it was like, thank you, that's sweet, and let's move on. So, and I love them all. The reboot was great. All the love, big happy joy for me on that one. So
I was going to ask you about.
Was great.
That was awesome, and I love what you did on that. What was the experience like all those years later, getting called back to be a part of that?
I didn't get called back. Did I tell this story yet? I didn't get called back to be a part of it. I saw on the day that Luke had his stroke, coincidentally, it was the day they rolled out the ads, the da-na-na-na, guess who's coming back sort of ads they did. And I saw the ad, and it made me have goosebumps, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe how, I have to be part of this. I didn't even know how much I missed it until I was like, oh my God, it's happening again. There's a way to be back in it. I have to be back in it. So that very day, I Googled who the producers were, and I friended them on Facebook, and they wrote me back within an hour and said, hey, oh girl, we got to buy you lunch. And they did. The next day, they took me to lunch. And they said, here's what we're going to do. We're doing the show. Everyone's playing a heightened version of themselves, and here's what everyone's pitched for themselves, everyone's story, what they're going to be. Would want to do an episode? I said, I'll do all the fucking episodes. Like, how many you have, I want to do them all. How can we make that happen? Like, well, that's great. Okay, so what would you want to do as the heightened Christine Elise? And having not been told that I was going to pitch a story idea at lunch, I said, give me the course of the lunch to tell you. And then I thought, I'm doing that thing. I like driving and thinking about something else. I'm having lunch with them and thinking like, what am I gonna pitch? And I realized I think the funniest people on TV for my money are like the mom on Arrested Development, or the mom on 2.5 Men, or Megan Mullally on Will and Grace. So the booze coos. That's like has a sharp tongue. Her filters are gone because she's 3 sheets to the wind, and they're the funniest characters on TV. So I said I would like to be the booze coos on this show, and I would like to have a vendetta against all them people for offenses real or imagined. I want to be the bitch on the show. And they're like, ha ha ha, that's hilarious. And that was February 24th, and I didn't hear from them again until they hired me like a week before I flew to Canada in June. So I pitched myself and then waited, and then it happened.
See, this is a lesson to everybody, by the way. Christine certainly learned the lesson on 90210 that you must take advantage of opportunities. She just said, and I Googled them, and then I found them on Facebook, and then I contacted them.
Just that
How
simple.
many people do something like that?
Right.
People don't do it. So I urge everybody to learn from that in life.
You know what? There's a little moment in the middle of that I could quickly tell, which is that they hadn't called me, and my friend in New York had a writer on the show. A friend that was a writer, and there was a whole writing hubbub. And she's like, my friend that was a writer left the show, and she's not writing for them anymore, so I can't give you any inside information. I don't know what's happening. You should really write them. And have they called you? Do you have a job? I go, and they haven't. They go, you have to write them. You have to write them. I go, that is just not what you do. It's not protocol. I already broke protocol. I'm not gonna go, hey guys, what about me? You thought about me?
Right. Yeah.
No, you have to. And then I'm like, this is not how you do it. Like, I can't be like, I know you guys are writers are walking away, and the network's it's all clusterfuck, and I'm gonna go, hey, it's me. What about me? I can't do that. And then that same day, they had made an announcement, like the premiere date. So I just took that opening again and wrote to Chris and said, hey, congratulations. I know the premiere date's been announced. I'm chosen to be great. Have a great time. He's like, oh my God, thank God you wrote me. You would have fallen through the cracks. I almost forgot about you. And so I left that part out because it didn't seem important when you said that. And so I was really resistant to be the pain in the ass actress going, what about me? And
Good thing you did, though. I think you make that reboot. I mean, that seeing you in that character that you brought to it, it was incredible.
Well, they wrote it. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Lily, one more. What you got?
2 more. Zara Brown wants to know from Christine, what was your take on Emily's journey? And looking back, what advice would you give those who are struggling with mental health and in love with a partner and coping with a breakup today?
Ooh.
Big question.
That's some heavy stuff. I'm not a therapist. I really think if a person makes you feel sad, just find a way to get away from them. And sadness goes away. Sadness heals, but bad people stay toxic forever. So I don't have any real. That's a heavier question. It's a question for bigger minds than mine. And so, but I think that breaking up with people.
Hey, call Carol Potter. Call
Carol.
Or Joshua Beckett. Josh.
Yeah, him too. We got Joshua on our Rolodex.
Yeah. As far as Emily goes, she was redeemed, as Aaron promised me she would be, and I am happy that her crazy story, the crazy episodes are the ones she's known for good reason. Drama makes good television. And when she came back, she was just like the good girl, and it wasn't even really that nearly as interesting as the stuff I resisted doing. You know, and somebody was like, I don't want to do it. Is the stuff everyone remembers. So, you know, as far as the character, I think you guys handled it very well. I think she maybe would have been better served if she'd still been crazy.
Yes. There would have been a lot more. There would have been some more fun stuff coming. Okay, Lily, your last one.
Last one. So this one is for Christine, Chuck, and Jessica. From your take, did you ever think that Emily Valentine would be such an iconic character, and where would Emily be in 2020?
Emily would be working for the Biden-Harris campaign. She would be working hard to make the Senate blue and to support everything that Nancy Pelosi wants to do. Does that sound about right for Emily Valentine, Christine?
Sounds right for a character that I created. Absolutely.
Exactly, Jess. I thought you'd like that.
I would like it too. I had no way of knowing. I had obviously no way of knowing that she would. And apparently she's a lesbian icon. And here's what I think the great legacy of Emily Valentine is from my perspective. I was a punk rock kid in school. I was the outsider. I understand what that feels like. On that show, there was, you know, Brian and Doug played sort of little quasi outsiders, but they weren't really outsiders in that show. They ended up being enveloped, you know, and embraced ultimately. In the years since the show, it's people that have felt disenfranchised in life, whether it was high school or in their larger lives, whether they felt disenfranchised because they are a different economic, status than the community, or a different religion, or they're gay, or a different race, or all the ways that you can feel other than, and feel other than. And so all those people forgave Emily for all her craziness because she stood and held a place on that show for them. And the island of misfit toys is an island that I would like to buy and host, because that's who I have been my entire life. So it's an incredible legacy for me that I played a character that so many people that didn't feel spoken for felt spoken for by. The grammar's bad there, but you follow.
We got it.
Absolutely. I want to say that what I feel so touched by, I don't think that Emily would have been such an iconic character who's remembered so vividly and with such love if you hadn't made her into a three-dimensional character, because she could have easily have been a caricature. And we had other characters who were crazy, who did become sort of caricatures. And but what you were, this is a collaborative medium, and it worked really well for all of us to collaborate on this. Very nice.
Chuck, for you on Christine and Emily, what Jessica just said, you obviously wrote for her again in season 4 and whatnot. You kept bringing her back. What is it that you loved about Christine's performances?
Well, A, she and Jay had great chemistry. B, she knew her character. She was, and this is not to belittle, love you and love your talent and love what we all got to do together. But we had 32 episodes to do, Pete. Let's get that one. How about that one? How about that one? There was so much to do. And Christine, we did 2 each year. And in season 4, it was like part of season 4, quite frankly, up in San Francisco was, so you wouldn't let me go to Paris? Okay, well, I'm going to San Francisco. Because I went to school in Berkeley. It was a lot of friends up there. It was a nice time. Right. The two of them.
We could send the two of them as a couple. You guys, Jason and Christine could go up with Chuck as a couple. We didn't get to go.
That's right. Just myself and the director. So. But the in the first episode in the season 4, but season 5, you really factored into the action.
Yes.
The house is burning and Brandon's with you and not his girlfriend. So.
And why did nobody ever tie Emily Valentine to that fire? She shows up and things are burning.
The network wouldn't let me do it. Right? No, but that's my fallback.
Right, I got you.
In both season 4 and season 5, I was in double up. And so you guys maybe don't really, I don't understand the logistical nightmare that double ups means. If you're shooting a show that's mostly out on the stage with built sets, you can't have 2 scenes happening on the same stage in the same, even with you have to divide the schedule so that no actors needed at the same time. So the scenes have fewer people in them, obviously, because they have to pick up where they are. It's a super nightmare. How you guys.
Christine, We did a video cast on Double Ups.
Yes.
And
We
it's
did a
in it's in the library, right?
Yes, you can
Yeah.
Anybody
definitely
wants
check
to
that
know
in the
more about
archive.
Double
For sure.
Ups, they can find it.
Yes,
Great.
and we talked about that particular double up, the ones
That's
that
right.
Emily came back for. Yeah. Listen, I'm all about gratitude these days. I think we've covered this a lot. I think it would be awesome, Christine, for you to come back for some more down the line. This has been
Anytime.
been awesome.
Fun, right?
Yeah. Oh, so much
Tell your friends.
Yeah, please. Tell Kathleen Robertson. Yeah.
I don't know Kathleen, but is she being persnickety? She's not coming?
We haven't gotten her, and we're now lobbying for Tiffany, right?
Yeah, now we've shifted. We're at Tiffany Thiessen now. That's what we're trying to do. Yes, we made the switch.
Busy AF. She's busy.
Yes, she is, and she's amazing. She's got a cookbook and all this other stuff, so she's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Listen,
But
listen, the reason, like you said before about what Emily was to people, that is absolutely true. That you brought something so special to that character, and so many people were able to identify with you because of you. Though I know that you brought that life to Emily Valentine, and your honesty in your work. It's just so large. It speaks so large, probably to who you are as a person. So just getting.
No. I suck. Emily is flawed. I'm way worse.
Well, I think the world of you, and I know everybody here thinks the world of you because they've been leaving tons of awesome comments. All right, listen. On Friday, Larry and I are back. I don't think you're with us, Jessica, but we've got.
Right, well, here's what I said to Larry. I
Okay.
said, I'll do it if you need me to do it. And the next thing I knew, I had episodes in my mailbox. So I think I might be, but I told Larry, I'll let you know one way or the other. It will have to do with whether my days get away from me, whether I have time. So I'll let you.
But it will be with Jill Novick, who was Tracy in season 7. This is like weird science for Chuck. Doesn't even recognize that face. He has no idea who that is.
If you ever thought about writing, though, I would love to come back and talk about the writing.
I want to do that.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
that'd be just great.
Yeah. And then on Sunday, I'm dropping, this is going to be crazy for fans, but I did an interview with somebody from season 8 to 10, which is shocking. Lindsay Price, who played Janet and eventually married Steve on the show.
That's what Christine just said. She has the character payment for
$30. Ka-ching.
There you go. There you go. For Janet, that's amazing. Something I didn't know. That's cool. And so we're going to drop that on Sunday as a bonus episode. All right, guys, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. And we'll catch you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Great.
Yeah,
Great
love
to see
you,
you,
everyone.
so much.
See everybody.